Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newest edition of AmiSights. I'm Ami Kassar, your host, along with our co-host, Lynn Ozer, aka SBA Queen. So excited to have my friend and actually forum mate, Devin Gage, on today. Devin is an extraordinary human being, founder and CEO of Engage Personal Training. I've always loved hearing his insights and his wisdom, and I'm so glad that he will be with us on the show today to share. Devin, thanks for being on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's great to
Awesome.
meet you. I'm
Yeah, you
excited to
too.
hear all about how you got into the fitness business. And but let's start back a little bit further and tell us why entrepreneurship? When did that entrepreneurial bug crawl into you?
So I remember, I don't know if I ever knew it was entrepreneurship until actually after I had started my business. I always felt like that word, felt a lot of imposter syndrome around that word entrepreneur until the last couple of years. But I will say it always started with, I don't think I've ever actually shared this story, but a girl I dated in college, I brought her home to meet the family for one holiday. And I guess she was connecting with my family members and my aunts who my mom had a really close relationship with. And she came out and she was like, huh, she's like, that's interesting. And I was like, well, what did they say? And she was like, they're like, they said you don't like being told what to do. And so if I want you to do anything, it's got to be your idea. And that really, if I could define, my whole life is, my first sentence ever, my mom used to make fun of me was, I do it myself. And I always really resisted kind of being told what to do or rules in general. And the funny thing is, I'm in the fitness industry now, but growing up, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was never very good in school. I was never a great student. And when I came to, going to college, I either wanted to be a firefighter or go into law enforcement. And really the only, reasoning I had was I don't want to sit behind a desk all day and I want to help people. So I actually went to college and studied criminal justice. And it was like in my first semester that all my professors were like, if you want to help people, you're in the wrong industry. You are going to be the most, criticized and, viewed most critically, and you're dealing with people on the worst day of their lives. And the majority of your job is going to be sitting and doing paperwork. And they kind of, said that in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, but they were like, if you think you're going to be chasing bad guys and the hero, or get any sort of recognition, you're probably going down the wrong path. So I finished my degree in criminal
That was how
justice,
to
but
weed everybody out of that class, right?
yeah, but I had a great time in college, and it was kind of a fun degree to get. We watched a lot of serial killer documentaries and learned a lot about, really interesting topics. But really, when I was a freshman in college, I got certified as a personal trainer, and it was just because I was an athlete. I really liked working out, and it was just something that I did because I was super passionate about it. And if I could choose anything, I would just go to the gym and hang out or torture my friends and write workouts and meal plans for people. So before I even knew you could do this as a career, I was naturally inclined to be drawn to that style of work. So that's, really after college, I continued there, but I can say I did an internship with Philadelphia Police, and I was absolutely miserable. I didn't like being yelled at and told I had to iron my pants every day and shine my shoes. So I decided right after college that I don't think I would be a very good law enforcement officer. And that's kind of what brought us here.
How about it? So how did you begin earning money in the fitness business before you really knew you were an entrepreneur and you were helping people? How did you, tell us about your business journey?
So, like I said, I started at a Gold's Gym just as a personal trainer through college. And at the
Right.
time, I didn't know that you could do this as a real job. I just thought it was
Yeah.
something that people did on the side. And, I had a handful of clients through college and really just barely made any money at all. And it was just something I did on the side. But after college, so I had my daughter was born right when I graduated college. I was a single father from pretty much day one. And there was another reason I really went all in on fitness because I could have more control over my schedule. The gym that I worked at had a daycare, But that was when I was like, all right, if I want to be present and I don't want to have to worry about working overnights or crazy shift schedules like in law enforcement, uh, I really started to take it seriously. Now, again, I didn't know how to make a real living because I didn't know any marketing or sales. So really, I just started training people any way that they would pay me for. Like whether, this was back in 2008 or 2009. So it was before this online fitness movement. I would just find anybody that was in a gym and I would try to convince them to let me design them workouts or, train with me and really just take cash, handshake deals on whatever I was doing. And then one of my clients ended up leaving the Gold's Gym and he wanted me to train him at home. So that kind of started this real venture of in-home personal training. So that was my first kind of entrepreneurial side. I moved away from the corporate kind of contractor personal training role and really just started going door to door and doing in-home personal training. It was all cash. It was at the time I was 23. It was felt like I was rich because I had like $150 an hour thing that was just unheard of at the time. And I just never really understood that I was also burning a ton of gas money. And, 1 hour session was actually like 2 hours because of the driving there, unloading, loading, and conversation. So that's kind of how I started. And I jumped. It's actually, crazy when I think about how ill thought out it was when I actually opened my first gym because my daughter, her mom was living in Reading. My family was in Havertown. And I was just commuting back and forth all the time because I had a lot of in-home clients in Havertown in the mainline area. I was training a few people in Reading. And I was like, man, it would be great if we had a place that I could just train these people. And all I knew was that I took 76 back and forth from Reading to the Philadelphia area, and Westchester, PA was like the one exit right in between. And I was like, it seems reasonable. So I started looking and I rented a warehouse space in Westchester. I didn't tell anybody. And I was like, hey, everybody, now we can train in Westchester. And you guys, we can get out of your house and come to Westchester to work out. And 0 of my 8 or 9 clients wanted to do that. So that was kind of, how I started in like a brick and mortar from that in-home personal training business. But yeah, that's kind of the journey that I took. And then I just went all in on it and tried to make it work in the brick and mortar.
Awesome. So tell us about opening up that first location. How did you do it? How did you fund it? How scary was it?
Yeah.
What happened?
So how did I do it? I convinced somebody to let me sign a lease with almost zero business or financial background. It was a warehouse. It was a garage space. So it was about 1,200 square feet. It was a single bay garage space. Everyone else in our building were mechanics or auto shops or just pure storage. And really, I had this idea that I was making a ton of money because I could make $1,000 a day in cash driving door to door and training these clients because I was charging about 150 an hour. And if I trained 6 people, I was like, I felt like I was the most successful personal trainer that's ever lived. And so really, I think my dad co-signed on the lease or something. And I went in and it was as ill thought out as I just opened the doors and I was like, all right, when did the people show up? I didn't have a website. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have a sign on the door. And I was like, all right. And again, at the same time, I was still doing I was still doing the in-home training. I was still, I was blogging at the time. Like nobody had read a single blog, but I really liked writing and I was doing all these videos and I was kind of like in it, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I signed the lease October of 2012 and I didn't have my first client in Westchester until February of 2013. So it was a 4 or 5 month stretch where I was like, I've got this lease.
How were those monthly lease payments during those few months?
And again, I was just so clueless because I was still making money doing in-home training until like I committed fully to leaving those people and going all in. And I was also working part-time for my stepmom who owned a ballet shoe warehouse in King of Prussia. So I just, the lease payment was $1,000 a month. So it was like small enough that I was like, all right, I guess I got this thing until I figure out what I'm doing. And I worked with a mentor at the time. I went to an event and I was like, wow, I got to learn from this guy. And we did a few coaching calls. And the first call, he was like, hey, I think you got to fire all of your personal training clients and just go all in on this gym thing. And I was like, okay. I was 23 years old. I was living at my mom's house at the time. I had a 1-year-old daughter and I did it. And then I literally just kind of walked around Westchester and tried to meet people. And I made some really strong connections early on that opened a lot of doors for me. But that that's pretty much what happened.
Did you have an EIN number or anything like that?
I did.
Or this was
I
your
did,
side
so
gig? I mean, and then you went right into this, or, I mean, you had to pay your expenses. So
yeah.
I don't
So
mean to pry, but
I
it's
did
pretty
have an
amazing.
EIN. I got an LLC when I was
And
really doing the in-home
did your
training.
mentor help you to do that and suggest that to you?
So I started with him a little after. So I got the LLC. My dad was not an entrepreneur,
Oh,
but when I told him what I was doing, he's like, "Well, you should get an LLC." And I did that. And I didn't even know what that meant.
right.
I had no idea what I was doing. So I had an LLC. I think again, the early days, it was like I call it like the Wild West. Like I don't know what I was doing, but I did operate legally from the start.
No, I'm just curious how you even knew how to do bookkeeping or anything like that.
Oh, I
That's,
didn't.
I mean, I'm not making
Well,
any
listen, this
judgments.
is
I'm just saying, like, you're living at home and you're like babysitting these people and putting the money in your piggy bank. That's, I get it.
well. So, and here's an industry thing. Fitness industry. We've done a pretty. I'm happy to share the whole story till today. But the fitness industry is notorious for having horribly run businesses. And I'll never forget, I went to, a pretty big event. There were probably 60 or 70 gym owners that were really trainers that did the same thing as me, signed a lease without any idea what they were doing. And one of the topics was like, hey guys, like, does anybody know what a P&L is? And I don't think anybody in the room that had a business knew what a profit and loss statement was. And they did a whole workshop on how to know your numbers and how that means it's not just how much money is in your bank account. Because that's how myself and everybody operated, was just, I'm doing well because there's money in the bank. And that's all I know how to judge this off of. But yeah, there was no, I mean, early days, there was no point of sale system. There was no scheduling system. My first group of clients came from Groupon. And it was like,
Oh yeah,
they got
remember?
like 27 workouts for $4, and I didn't make a single dime off of them for a
No.
while, but we ended up retaining a bunch. So I was just flying by the seat of my pants.
That's how a lot of people start. So
It is. It's just so interesting. I haven't talked to somebody in a while like this. I mean, in the beginning of my career, it seems like that's all I met were people like you. They had a shoebox with some receipts and things like that, and they
Yeah.
didn't know. But I mean, it was just like what you said before. You're charging $150 an hour, and you realize that's not what you're making. It's taking you 2 hours. That's 3 hours out of your day, and then you paid for gas and all your equipment that you brought there.
Yep.
Like the light bulb started to go off, right? And that this
sounds
is
like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
an Uber
Absolutely.
driver a little bit.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just such a great story. So wait, so back to 2013, and you did fire all your clients, and you're sitting there with nothing to do, and
It,
walk around Westchester, meet people. There's a university there. Did you try hitting up the students there?
So I'll have to, I think the very, very early days, I joined the chamber. It was like,
Good.
$100 to join for the year. Somebody told me to do that. And I met
Yeah.
a woman that had like a local, Chester County webpage. And I found a couple networking events and I went, and she really, she really took me under her wing. She was like, I guess saw me walking around and was like, all right, this kid is not going to go anywhere if I don't help him. So she made a lot of really key introductions to what I didn't even realize at the time, like very prominent people in Chester County that also happen to want to get in shape. So it really, the first few people that I trained really opened a lot of doors and provided a lot of referrals. And then I, did a Groupon, and then I started getting a little more traction. But I mean, it was as grassroots as it gets. I used to eat it. I used to go to lunch at Timothy's restaurant like a couple times a week just to see who I could talk to at the bar, the bartenders, and who I now know the owner is a member of EO, or at least was. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My mentor kind of, and I still work with him today. He's a really close relationship that I have, and he said, he was early on in his mentorship career, coaching career, and he was like, I either just helped this kid or ruined his life. But
Okay, so he
so
didn't ruin your life. Go forward and tell us, more about the expansion and your experiences there.
yeah, so the early days, the first year, it was just me. Again, I was still piecing together. I worked for my stepmom a little bit until I
Yeah.
really had any semblance of recurring revenue coming in. So I would train people at like from 5:30 to 7 a.m. I would be in King of Prussia from 8 to like 2 or 3, and then I would train some people in the afternoons. Any other time was spent kind of just walking around, stopping into businesses and meeting people and doing all that. And that really worked, from that February when I took on my first client till really the next January. So that first year was just me. I think I grew to about 30 or 40 clients at the time. And it really felt like a real business. It started to feel like it was like, okay, this is a thing. We put a sign on the building. We had, we painted the gym a little bit. And that's when I hired my first employee. And I can honestly say that was the moment where the biggest light bulb went off, because I remember being at my family Christmas party, and my cousins. So I'm the youngest of a big Irish Catholic, family. I've got 20 cousins, and one of my cousins was like, "Hey, how's the gym thing going?" And that's kind of how I talk to a lot of new gym owners. They think it's like a phase that we go through when we open gyms. They're like, "How's that gym thing going?" And I was like, "It's good. I'm looking to hire my first trainer." And she was blown away. And she was 5 or 6 years older than me at the time. And she was like, "Really?" It's like, "That's like
Big deal.
you're doing something that you can provide a job." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." Like, somebody told me to hire somebody and have enough money to do it. And she was like, "Wow." She's like, "You're a job creator." And I was like, "Whoa." Like, that was cool. Like, I never considered myself a job creator before. And I felt just a really strong sense of pride in being able to do that. And I can say I was more motivated from that point, because I hired a person that's still with me today and has kind of climbed the ranks with all the positions that we've thrown at him. We are an EOS company, so he's kind of my integrator. And I remember having him, and I was like, "This guy's really good. I need to get more clients so that I can give him more opportunity." And that was where it really picked up, because I was really motivated. I had the time now to be like, "All right, you're going to train. I'm just going to go have more lunches in town and try to meet people and get them in the door." Uh, so that's really when the kind of flywheels started spinning. And I was like, "All right, I got to figure out this marketing thing. I have to figure out who we are as a brand." And really, I always liked writing. So we did a lot of email marketing. We did a lot of, organic social posts, which back then were really effective. And I think just whatever I was doing and talking about resonated, and we developed a pretty good little business around here. And Jeff, who was my first hire, elevated to full time. It was about 6 months later, we expanded we're in the same building as the first day, into a bigger unit, and we've expanded to taking over multiple units. But really just kind of kept growing from there, and ironing out like our brand voice, our unique selling proposition. And we definitely speak to a very different part of the market than a lot of other trainers. And I think that really is what.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'll give you more context. So when I opened the gym, I was like the stereotypical meathead. I had a shaved head. I was a competitive weightlifter. I was wider than I was tall. Like I was just a very muscle bound, like probably intimidating looking person. But we were speaking to the kind of adult population that are not your typical gym goers that need to lose weight. They're typically moms and dads that have really busy lives. They are not me.
Mhm.
So I think there was something about that contrast where they would see me talk and be like, that guy looks crazy. But then they would see what we're doing and the people that we're working with. And I think it kind of gave them like even more of a confidence boost to be able to train with this person that actually made them feel safe and made them feel comfortable. And they could train in a really cool, kind of hardcore garage gym. That's, at least what I feel like the main kind of vibe we gave off was is like we want to give people that are not your typical gym people. They would never be able to go to a, maybe a CrossFit gym or really intense real training gym and feel safe or comfortable without judgment. And
Right.
that's kind of what we were selling.
Has that stayed with you all the way through it, or has it evolved?
It's evolved to an extent. So here in Westchester, we are still in a warehouse space. So we still have that kind of the look that's a little grungier than a really high-end fitness club. And I do think that is kind of part of
The appeal.
what's anchored, yeah, what the appeal has been. But we've evolved over the years. And I should say another really big shift that we made was we evolved from my first logo was like my name with a bending barbell. It was black and red. And over the years, people realized that we were not like a hardcore, scary place. We actually had a really big heart for the people we worked with, our community. We did a lot of, work for nonprofits, a lot of volunteer events. I really took a lot of pride in the fact that we had built a platform of people, and I wanted to use it for the greater good. And not only from a business standpoint, I wanted to show people that they were a part of something bigger than just a place to work out, but also just a personal sense of pride. I was like, man, we've got hundreds of people here. Like, what can we do with that? And so whether it's park cleanups or fundraisers or, charity things that we organize. So we really took on the slogan, Little Gym, Big Heart. And that's kind of, we rebranded, our whole image kind of shifted. And that also spoke to to our audience, where I think it just emphasized even more like, oh, this isn't some meathead, powerlifting gym.
So Devin, when you went back, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you
Yeah.
had one employee and now you have hundreds of people. So you can't just have one. When did you grow the business and how many do you have now? And do you have your own marketing person? Tell us about that part.
Yeah, so we grew, it feels like really fast. We've been in business for almost 12 years.
Great.
We have 9 people that work here in Westchester between trainers and admin. We have a full-time salesperson, full-time marketing person here. And then
Yeah.
we've expanded from this one location. Now we've got 7 total locations. And all of our other locations are under the Engage personal training brand. And they all have between 1 and 3 employees at every studio.
Mhm. And how many studios are there now?
7.
Amazing. That's just amazing.
Where
Great.
are the studios?
So we have studios. We have 4 in the Pennsylvania. So we have Ardmore, Collegeville, Malvern, Westchester, and then we have Greenville, Delaware. Technically Wilmington, but Greenville sounds nicer. And then we have South Florida in a town called Tequesta. It's right outside Jupiter, and then Orange County, California.
Wow. So are they test markets? What are you doing? Tell us about your expansion plans.
So, some of this is maybe I haven't dropped all the old habits of flying by the seat of my pants, but they are somewhat test markets. So, I'm sure Ami could speak to this, but I think sometimes you get spoiled with cash flow, and you feel insulated from risk when a lot of cash is coming in. So we started expanding. We opened our first studio in Malvern, And that went incredibly well. I mean, we opened with 85% of a completely full gym. Our marketing was really on fire. The director we had in there was incredibly successful. So we went and opened another one pretty soon after that because it was almost cash flowing on day one. The second one wasn't quite as successful, but it still was pretty doing well. So we're like, all right, maybe number two, maybe number three was a little bit of a flop, but like, let's try again. And we opened our third one that was again incredibly successful. So we got kind of riding this wave and feeling spoiled by this massive success of opening these kind of micro gyms, which are a lot smaller. They're a slightly different model. They're a lot cheaper to open. They're very low overhead, very minimal staffing. And at that point, we were looking to open another one in the Doylestown area. And we worked with a fitness recruiter, and she sent us a resume, and she was like, hey, this person, I staff gyms all over the country. This person looks like he's got great experience, this is exactly who you want. And we reached out initially, and the individual was like, hey, this sounds like a dream come true, but I just moved to California. And so I was like, well, we interviewed everybody else. There was nobody that was even remotely, a good fit. And I was talking to Jeff, my integrator, and I was like, the vision that we have is to expand to 100 locations. We've got 4 now. At some point, we're going to have to leave the state, and we're going to have to do something remote. And I was like, it seems to make sense that we do it when there's the least going on or the least moving parts. And he knows that visionary, if I want to do something, there's usually, there's not a lot stopping me. So he was like, listen, if that's what we're going to do, like I'm in. So that's kind of what we did. We went through the whole interview process, and we identified the market, and we did our due diligence, and that's kind of how we ended up in California.
That's great. That's great.
And then Florida, we actually acquired a failing gym that was brought to my attention through a former colleague, and the gym was going out of business. They had the option to renew their lease. They had about 6 months to make a decision. I bought it knowing that it was a pure asset sale, and was like, you know what? It's worth the cost of the equipment. If I can get some traction and really turn this thing around and see some progress, then we'll make it work. And if not, I'm going to give the landlord notice that I'm not going to renew the lease, and I'll package up the equipment and put it into another gym. And we did that in March, and that has been one of the fastest growing studios that we've had. We've retained almost every single former client with a price increase that is one of the reasons that they weren't doing well. That one's been surprisingly successful.
Awesome.
What do you see, Devin? How do you figure out? Obviously, there's different successes and different challenges in each location. Do you have any analytics or ability to figure out what's working or what's not, or what's location specific or what's not, or what's consistent or what's not? Or are you still sort of in the process of figuring all that out?
So what I can say is we've become very data driven lately. I've seen that the bigger we get, the more complexity there is, the more we have to make decisions based on our scorecard. So we've got a pretty extensive scorecard that we built. The operational side of these is pretty simple. The workout product that we put out is really good. Once people come in, we've got an 80% close percentage of people coming and trying the gym, as long as they've been, somewhat qualified on cost. Operationally, we're very strong in terms of the product that we're putting out. Always the factor that has the most volatility is the sales and marketing. So that's where we've become very, very data driven. So we've got every metric that we need. We have our sales process that goes from, out of 100 leads, 60 of them should respond to our follow-ups and engage with us. 50% of those should agree to a trial. 75% of those should show up to the trial, and about 75+% should convert to a membership from that trial. So we keep really close tabs.
Great.
Yeah, we keep really close tabs on that. We do weekly leadership meetings where we run through the scorecard, and every single stage of that sales process, we have a lever that we pull if the numbers are off for 2 weeks. So it's either we need new ad creative to generate more leads, We need a new offer that leads are going to reply to. We need better response time on our sales. We need different messaging in the sales. We need more times available. So there's kind of levers that we pull at every single stage of it. And then the marketing, we do look at marketing ROAS and the cost per lead as our primary focus.
You certainly have come a long way since that first day when you had
Thank
the
you.
idea. I mean, this is real progress and
So
real, I
Devin,
mean, the processes and the data are what's going to allow you to expand anywhere. I mean, that's what it is all
Yeah,
about, right?
I've
So
become
who do
really
you attribute
annoying.
that to? Your hard work and being involved in EO, having a mentor. Tell us what you attribute your success to.
You know, I think like a lot of people, that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs, I think a lot of the drive that I have is probably based on some sort of, insecure level of insecurity, or, I seek out a lot of education. I seek out a lot of work with mentors and coaches. And I think a lot of that is just, feeling some semblance of insecurity about my own knowledge or experience. So feeling like I need to learn from somebody else. And I'm always reminded that, uh, I'm doing better than I thought I was, or imagined I was. But, if I'm totally honest, I think a lot of it is some sort of like, uh, trying to prove something, maybe trying to prove something to myself, or, you know, some childhood trauma that I can make it. And, but I don't know. I just always sought out information. I really like, I read a lot, but I seek out a lot of coaches. A lot of times I'll read a book, or I'll, learn from somebody, and then I'll be like, I love this person and I want to follow them. And then I'll learn that they're providing some kind of coaching or mentorship. And I'll usually, see what the deal is and invest in that.
you're an amazing learner, Devin. How do you visualize? So you want to go from 7 to 100. Do you have a plan to do that? Do you have a goal that you're going to add a couple more this year? Like, how is it, are you just taking it as you go, or are you working towards a plan?
So we've got a vision that's pretty granular. It breaks down, the EOS terms are rocks on a quarter by quarter basis. But to have 100 locations by 2034, which is our, the 10-year kind of, BHAG, as some people say, we got 7 at 10 gyms. The flywheel really opens up. So at this point, we are centralizing a lot of our systems. Like, we have a centralized marketing system or marketing team. We're hiring a centralized sales director, and then we have Jeff, who's running our ops. But the goal was to have 2 gyms open this spring. We had to plug a few holes in a few of the gyms, so we've pushed a few of them. But really, the goal will be to do 2 in the fall, and that puts us right around that 10 mark. And this would also be the second time we launched 2 gyms at a time. And the goal is, if we can do 2, we're really developing a system that is turnkey for launching gyms. And then installing, finding the recruiting mechanism, which I'm starting to dabble in that now, but with more personal branding. But starting a recruiting mechanism that builds a pipeline of trainers that want to work with us in open studios. In the next year, we would experiment with doing 3 launches at a time. And if we do 3 successfully, then it would go to 5. And really, that's kind of the model to grow exponentially, is like, if we can get a system that can launch 3 gyms right around the same time, then it's every 6 to 9 months. We'll open between 3 and 6 locations every 6 months.
Right.
And that's, we went through a pretty extensive financial kind of forecasting with our CFO, based on how long it takes these gyms to be profitable, and what the expected cash flow should be. And then, yeah, that's
When
kind
did
of.
you hire your CFO? I'm just curious. When along this road did that happen?
So the CFO was actually a close friend of the mentor that I worked with. So I think it was around 3 or 4 years in. I was like, all right, I need somebody
Yeah.
that's really gonna help me
I
with
was just curious. And
annual
the same
budgeting.
person's still with you.
Yep. Yeah.
That's great.
He's a pretty big name in the fitness industry these days.
That's great.
Awesome.
Good for you. This is great. So you will expand, and you are not going to franchise, correct? These are going to be all owned. This is, you're going to do like your
Correct.
brand. It's just, I think that's exciting. Good for you.
Devin, I love your story.
I do too.
How
Love
do
it.
you think about, I don't even know how to say this. What keeps you motivated?
Keeps me motivated. I I think I've got a little bit of an addiction to chaos. I've realized that when things are going really well, I like to, kick over the beehive and push myself. But and I've funneled that from self-sabotage to just opening more complex businesses and doing more things outside of ruining, causing some damage to my current business.
Yeah.
But no, it's without, the self-deprecating humor. Really, I really love, I've become obsessed with business and the game, understanding this game of business, and just this understanding that every one of these things has been done before. These problems have solutions that exist in the marketplace. And I love thinking about it from a strategic lens of like, if this, then that, and how do how does this puzzle all fit together? And it just excites me. And I think if it ever stopped exciting me, I would probably pivot. But until then, I created the vision. We're moving towards it until it doesn't feel good anymore.
This is I hate to put a downer on this, but what did you do during COVID? I thought gyms really suffered then.
The gyms that suffered, no, I shouldn't say that's not fair to say, but I will say, I looked at it as just because COVID happened and we were restricted on what we could do doesn't mean the problem didn't still exist for our clients. We're not here to provide a brick and mortar service. We're here to provide solutions to a problem.
Right.
They have the problem of motivation to work out, understanding of knowledge about working out and how to do so safely. So we could still provide that solution we went Zoom, we did outdoor workouts when we could, be
Oh,
in
good. Okay.
area. But it's, again, maybe this is telling about this addiction to chaos. Like I had a just sickening adrenaline rush and like level of excitement when these restrictions were passed down, because I knew it was going to be a competitive advantage that we could figure this out. And I knew a lot of businesses really rolled over, and they either didn't try. And I think something that I'm good with is I have a very creative mind. So that was my wheelhouse, where it's like, all right, we can't train in the gym. How do we provide X, Y, and Z solutions to these problems? And I think I was really motivated through COVID. And again,
Good.
I don't know if that's just the entrepreneurial DNA or what.
At the time, did you only have one gym, actually?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Made it a
all.
little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
have 7 all over the place. Yeah. And one more question. Is your daughter a gym rat?
So my older daughter is 12.
The
And
one
she
that
just,
was a baby when you got out of college, right?
yeah. So she's in the background back there as a photo of her. But if she just became old enough last year to join our middle school athlete program, and she really enjoys it. So that's been that's been one of my most favorite things about my main location is, she has grown up here. There's still photos of like little drawings that she drew under our front desk,
Yeah.
at the front desk. And it's just really, really cool. And it means a lot that she's been able to grow up with that and sees kind of all the things that have been built.
It's great.
Awesome. Devin, how do you, in your programming, are you balancing for your clients nutrition and fitness, or is it purely working out, or what is it?
So one of our 3 uniques as a company is we have a comprehensive approach. So kind of the proven process of what we do is we come in, we have a body composition scan. So I know you're using DEXA or something for your own health nowadays. So we have a system called the InBody scan, and it's calibrated off the DEXA scan. It's not nearly as fancy, but we'll get a baseline and we'll look at your muscle mass, your body fat percentage, your water weight, and then we do a consultative approach where we say, all right, what do you need to see in order for this to be the best thing that's ever happened to you? And then we kind of provide or prescribe a kind of routine for you to follow. It's like, all right, you're going to do 2 times a week here. You'll go for, 10,000 steps or a long walk on the off days. And then we use some of those metrics to help us with nutritional coaching. Our approach is very simple. The clients that we work with do not need more information than just, if you want to lose weight and you have a goal of this is how many calories your calorie kind of limit should be on average. And that's going to help you lose weight. And it's based on the numbers in their in-body scan. And then if you want to lose weight and make sure that weight is body fat, you need to make sure you're getting enough protein in your diet. So we really just give, here's your calorie window. Here's how much protein you should be getting in your daily diet. We go over what their typical routine is right now. And then we try to help them, swap out things that are going over on calories, or help them enjoy higher protein foods by, making it taste better or providing recipe ideas. And then every month we have them do the in-body scan. We don't force them, but really our thing is like, every month you will have the chance to see if you are moving in the right direction or not. If not, you'll have the chance to work with one of our coaches and, push you along the way or talk about what's happening. But if so, we give you a high five and we say, let's keep going.
That's great.
Devin, how do our listeners learn more about you? And I think you also have an in column. Where can they find that?
So my in column is just, I guess you could just search my name, Devin Gage, on inc.com. And how to find more about me. So the personal brand that I started, they can go to Gage Strength Training's Facebook or Instagram. That's probably the most activity of what we do. And then I started another podcast and social profile called Little Gym, Big Heart. And it's really speaking to trainers that want to make a living in the fitness industry. The churn rate for personal trainers is like, I think it's less than 9 months on average, because a lot of trainers just have no idea how to make a real living. So it's very much geared towards the fundamentals of fitness business. And really, it's a recruiting play for me, so that if we get trainers that think I know what I'm talking about, that want to open a gym with me, then that's how we are hoping to recruit some trainers to work with our company.
Love it.
Great.
Devin, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for being on. And my friend, I'll see you in a week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Loved hearing your story. It was just great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
wish you the best of luck going forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
Talk
Thanks,
to you
Ami.
soon. Thanks, Devin.
All
Take care.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.